Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Too Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. 2 easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I am so excited today. I've got our good friend Walter Esselman back with us. This is like number 4. Welcome, Walter.
Yeah, I am so glad to be back. This is awesome.
I'm pretty sure that you're our first 4th timer. We've had several 3-timers.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
I told you I got to figure out what we're going to do for you for number 5, because number 5-timer, you get something.
Yeah, God knows I still have a few books we haven't talked about.
That's right. I'm saying I know we'll get there. I know 5 was around the corner, but right now you're in the lead. 4 is the lead, but there's several awesome. 3s. There's several.
Well, I gotta keep
stay ahead of them.
Stuff out there.
Just keep writing. There's a lovely woman that lives in Spain, and she's a writer, and she's been on 3 times, and she just sent me her new book, and she's like, ready when you are. And I'm like, well, I got to get Walt on, because I wanted Walt to be the first 4-timer.
Oh, thank you, my brother. I greatly appreciate that.
So, Walt, I'm a big fan of your writing. But tell me a little bit before we get into the book. Tell me a little bit about your process. And I know we've talked a little bit about it before, but where do you get your ideas from? And do you have like a schedule that you write on, or is it just haphazard? How does your process work?
Well, as far as ideas, I don't know, they kind of bubble up all the time. This one was specifically because I was Bad Blood, a Wasper adventure, was because I met Mark Rolston, who played Drake in Aliens.
Yeah.
And he told me this, they had pitched to Fox that Drake and Vasquez get cloned by Bishop. And I was kind of like, And then I kind of figured, as I thought about it more, I figured out how to do it. And I started sending him some ideas. And, he's been so busy. And I was like, I'm going to write it up. So, sometimes it's something that people say. My Cowboys versus Nazis, it was because my buddy we were talking about Midway. Everyone loves World War II and Cowboys. And wait a minute. So they kind of come from everywhere. Real life, will give me ideas, and and sometimes from the ether. It's so weird.
So when one comes through, however it gets there, well, do you write it down somewhere? Or do you just keep that all in your head?
Oh no, I got to write it. Yeah, I try and write it down so I don't forget it. Because
that was my thought. Because I have a lot of good thoughts, but then they're gone because I don't write them down.
Well, my series Dragon Sun started because I had just finished a book, and then I was like, okay, I want to at least write out a little bit of this. And I started it, and then I wrote a little more, and I got to page 40, and I said, okay, I guess I'm writing a book. So, and that was because a boy got adopted by a dragon. And I wanted to kind of explore that idea. I've done that with several things. I have one series, Wolfram, that I haven't had a chance to write down yet, but there's tons of notes because I needed to get out the whole story. So I have it
Right.
all worked out. I just haven't figured out how to get it into a book form.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So,
that makes sense. I like that
yeah,
idea of a dragon adopting a little boy. It's kind of Jungle Booky.
yeah, it's actually, and in fact, I just put out an anthology called Dragon Sun Tales, and of
Yeah.
the boy Gideon and his best friend Pavataro, who's a 15-year-old dragon. They're both 15, so the dragon's still his size, more or less. So,
When you write a book like that, because I mean, you're basically world building at that point, right? Because you gotta have a setting.
yeah,
Is
I'm
that
world
more difficult when
building.
you got to kind of build the whole world, or is that easier?
It depends on whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
So Dragon Sun was pretty easy because sometimes I would look and try and find, a uh, I like a little real world analogs,
Yeah.
but a lot of it's magic. So I can just kind of let it go. I can just kind of go. When I'm doing this story, Bad Blood, which is inspired by aliens, or the Liberties Run series,
Yeah.
about a librarian, with a sniper rifle. I had to figure out what, an M1 Abrams tank, I had to figure out how fast it went. How
Yeah.
I got to stop doing stories that need research. Oh, I'm so tired of research.
I was thinking because we were talking today, I was trying to think which story of yours that I've read that I love the most, because I loved Super Horror Max. That one was awesome. But then I was like, well, I don't know, that Cowboys and Nazis pretty darn good. But I think Liberty's Run is my favorite so far. So far,
Oh,
well,
nice.
I don't know, because now we've added in Bad Blood, and I really enjoyed that one too. But I don't know,
Oh,
something about the Liberty's Run. I don't know. I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
yeah. It's fun. It's not heavy. It's not the.
No, for
It's
all the action in you're right. It doesn't like you don't come out of reading that feeling down.
well, it is. So I approach horror in. I want. To me, it's like, what? If you keep your head and you don't, panic, and you take care of your friends, you know,
Yeah,
you can get through it. And to me, that's, the final girl's often the person who didn't lose their head or didn't go
you're
down into
right.
the spooky basement. So, like an idiot.
Yeah, never go down in the dark basement. Why would you do that? Do you need to know what's down there? Call the police and let them look.
Exactly. Unless it's a big trouble in Little China situation, because cops got better things to do than get killed. So,
Have you seen that commercial where it's the kids hiding from the guy with the chainsaw, and
yes,
why don't we just get in the car and drive away? And they're like, no, it's crazy. We got to hide behind this.
all these chainsaws.
And yes, the villain's just sitting there shaking his head.
Hell, yeah. That's always and that's always a big thing too, is to try and figure out, how can I flip the narrative?
Yeah.
How can I was just thinking about the final girl, and I thought it would be really funny to actually do a story where you kind of get, the roommates, the bookish, pure one, and the girl who's party, and to kind of set it up. And then it's like immediately, the first victim is the bookish girl, and the
Yeah.
final girl is actually the one who's the party girl.
Well, I like
So,
that. Yeah,
you
you're
know, I,
kind of you're reversing it. You're flipping it.
yeah,
I like
exactly.
that.
And so, that's always part of, the process too, is looking at it and how can I make it new?
Yeah.
How can I not be boring? You
Right.
know, and
Well, it's tough to do because there's so much out there, especially now
yeah,
we've got social media and everything. There's so much. It's hard to come up with original ideas.
well, one would argue that even Shakespeare had trouble finding
Yeah,
original
fair.
ideas. So
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's actually really fair. So, did you meet Mark at a convention? Where did you meet Mark?
Capital City Comic Con in Lansing, Michigan. It was a
Yeah,
couple years ago. I was actually, it was like my third or fourth con ever as a vendor, and
nice.
I got invited to this cool guy Christian. Was coming by at the end of the first Friday night. They have a cigars and stars,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Do you want to go?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, that sounds like great," you know. And while I was there, I got to enjoy a cigar with Rico Ross, who played Frost.
Yeah.
Really, and I would later get to talk to Daniel Cash, who played Spunkmeyer,
Yeah.
and sadly, I didn't get a chance to talk to Cynthia Scott. So I was,
Yeah, but that's
she,
amazing though. That sounds like a fun evening.
yeah. And while I was getting a little bit of whiskey or brandy, Mark Rolston said hi and such, and he was telling me about the idea of the getting the cloning.
Yeah.
And so Sunday, I go and get autographs. Sorry, Miss Cynthia Scott, I didn't get yours. But the people who are watching my table, my parents, were kind of like, we got to get
Yeah.
going. So I didn't have any extra time. And so while I was leaving, though, from getting Mr. Rolston's autograph, he was like, "Hey, don't forget that idea." And I was like, "Okay." The problem is most cloning stories suck.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
They do though.
Multiplicity.
I've always not. Honestly, I've never been a real fan of them, but it's only
Yeah,
because they're not very good.
yeah. I mean, usually it's a bad double with Jean Claude Van Damme and Jean Claude Van Damme,
The
and
evil double.
yeah, there it's always terror. Yeah. So multiplicity is one of the few, and Orphan Black, of course.
Yeah, or
But
that's the one I was thinking of. That was pretty good. But
yeah, there are a couple, but most of them really suck. And then that night, I was thinking about it while brushing my teeth, and I realized the Sulaco, big ship, was too big for a squad.
yeah,
And what if there was a science facility underneath? And so that I sat on a few days, and then I started, sending out ideas to Mr. Rolston, and I kind of bandied a few things around,
yeah,
and but he was so busy, later on I was like, you know what, my first idea, because uh, we had already had two queen battles,
right.
and in fact in Aliens, and
Yeah,
AVP, we didn't need another one of those, but I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a king and he's the head of security, and he has this ability to call the other soldiers to him.
yeah.
And I thought, you know what, this is such a cool idea. I have to just write it down. Actually, my friend Derek, bless his heart, he sat there. He's a fan too. He was one of my trusted advisors, uh, because he knows Alien and Predator inside out,
Yeah.
and he let me tell the whole story over dinner, and he was just like, "Yeah, you got to do it." So I sat down,
Well, he was right.
and
It's a great story.
it was interesting because I really wanted it. I had to make my own monsters.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be too close. So
Well, it's a homage, let's say, to aliens and kind of a yeah, I think you even say it's kind of a love letter to aliens. But yeah, you can't do aliens. So
well, and
you
to be
gotta change it a little bit.
one day I came into work. I work with Derek, and I said, "Oh, well, actually, it's better not that I'm not using xenomorphs." And then I was I always have to reflect and
Right.
think, am I being stupid? Am I being, well, I don't want to play with them anyways. um, and I thought, no, actually, it's better to not to have your own, because then you can reflect on other monsters. You're
Right.
not just doing that. you can create your own, and you're not hampered in by, the restrictions of the, uh, Prometheus and Covenant, decided to do new things, and well, yeah, that went
Right.
so. Oh, but
Are you
so,
excited for the new one coming out?
oh my God, yes,
Yeah, me
I
too.
cannot wait.
Me too, because
I
it's taking place like in between the first two, right?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm kind of interested. I kind of would love to see them just have a team of colonial marines that deal with these kind of things, and just
Yeah.
that could be, you could do a whole series that
Oh
way.
yeah, yeah. It'd make a good series, I think.
Yeah, you could have Earth get taken over, which they've done in the books,
Right.
by the xenomorph. So, and actually, that's a big part of this story, is that I wanted to go there. I wanted
Yeah.
to, and that's kind of driving part of the narrative, is that, Earth's gone, Earth's lost. How can we get it back? You
Yeah.
know, and that's part of the villain's, Dr. Whitefish.
Yeah.
Her, the name just popped in, and
I
immediately I
like
was
it.
like,
Yeah, I
okay,
like it.
yep, yep. She was, the lovely grandmother, who's actually pretty terrible person.
Right.
So, because I like
Yep.
the idea of just, that she was this warm, bubbly, oh, how are you doing? And then turns out she really
Yeah, I
was
like that
terrible.
too. Because yeah, it was kind of creepy.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
she's presenting one way, but she's actually the opposite.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, she does like cooking for the guys. She does like doing all that. You know, it's just that she's also happy to let these poor clones get decimated again and again and again,
Yeah.
and torture them for her own means, you know. And she feels it's altruistic because she's trying to save Earth, you
Right.
know. Because I love when villains don't think that they're villains,
Oh,
you
that's the
know. I
best.
think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because in their mind, they're justified with what they're doing.
yeah, and that's totally Dr. Whitefish. She thinks that, this is, you got to break a few eggs, kind of
Right.
stuff. Unfortunately, the eggs are people, so and that became part of the. I was so surprised at how long the book ended up being, because but there was, I just was going to write it out kind of like Cowboys,
Yeah.
and then it just turned into and I even looked to see, what could I kind of pare down, but it, this was a story that had to be told. But going back into world building, that was part of it. That was part of the whole thing, was that with world building this world, I had to explain a lot of it, and I had to
Right.
set up, you know, um, it, more stuff. So in the future,
Yeah, it makes you really think bigger picture, because it's not just
yeah,
about the character. You got these great characters and stuff, but they got to have a setting. You got to build
yeah.
out that world so that it doesn't seem one dimensional. And you always do a great job with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really love world building. I kind of just do it. I don't know. It's and
I know. I bet it's interesting inside your head.
oh yeah, my wife has always been worried about it, but actually there's a lot of uh it was terror. My buddy Mike W. Scout said the most horrible thing to me. He was just like, Cowboys, it's a little wholesome, and I was like, so I'm like, do you want me to beat you up? Is that what you're?
Well, I
But
kind of get what he's saying though, because there's an element to just the cowboy figure that's kind of wholesome, I think.
well, and that, but it goes again back to my horror. How I view horror is that it's about, surviving. It's
Right.
about keeping your head. It's about, not, and not, and do what the white coats say most of the time. So, uh, it's kind of like, you know, I like a happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about the 16th person who was kidnapped and killed. I want to know about the 17th. Who got away?
Who got away?
How did they get away? If I want sad, I have the New York Times, I have the Washington Post.
You got plenty of sad.
And I, there, and I hate the dark, grim, we get that so much in comic books. Even Superman, they tried to make dark.
I wasn't a fan of that. Because that's the opposite of what Superman should be. I'm fine with doing it with Batman and some of the other characters, but Superman, that's the Boy Scout.
Yeah, exactly. When the minute that Kevin Costner's Pa Ken is, Clark's like, oh, what did you want me to do? Let the kids in the school bus die? And he's like, Pa Ken's like, well, maybe you should have, And I was like, okay, so they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I was the same way. I was like, come on now.
Please. Yeah, the Boy Scout. He has to be, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain in the Lois and Clark.
Yep.
Was perfect because he had that kind of, and
I mean, they're almost too good for their own good, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I always wanted to write.
Where did the name come from? Where'd you get Bad Blood from? Are you a Taylor Swift fan?
Actually, I was at a convention because I already have it on my new vertical. Someone was like, "Oh, Bad Blood," and then someone's like going, "I don't think that's Taylor Swift," and I'm like, "No, it's not Taylor Swift." You know what? That one was one of those names that just popped out, and it was immediately like, "That's the name." I don't know why I didn't call it Wasper, which is, but.
Now I like the way you did it, a Wasper Encounter. I like that. Although now that I'm thinking about it, you absolutely should have had a character that was named after Taylor Swift. I mean, you couldn't name it Taylor Swift, but you could have named it Taylor or something. Maybe it's Taylor something, and the joke is that they're very fast.
The problem is that I'm not. We had to listen to one of her songs ad nauseum, and I'm not a fan.
I think she's a talented singer, but it's not like I'm putting her music on and listening to it.
Oh no, I know what you mean though. I kind of got that. I thought about, oh, that is the same as that, but I don't know. You want to always approach that stuff with love.
That's right.
And the characters in Bad Blood, reflect characters in Aliens.
Yeah.
But it's all coming from these are people that Aliens is in my top 5 movies of all time. It is absolutely one of the greatest films ever made.
I took the boys, Brett and Sean. We went and saw Alien. That they came through the theaters again this I guess in the spring. So we went to see that. They hadn't seen it and they loved it. And I'm like, that's not even the best one. and Brett, he still hasn't watched Aliens. I'm like, I guess I'm going to have a movie night. Watch Aliens, because that Aliens has always been my favorite.
Yeah, and well, it's the best war movie ever made.
Yeah,
I've hands down always felt that.
Yeah,
and
I've never thought of it that way, but you're exactly right. It's a war movie.
Yeah, but I mean the masterful way that James Cameron creates all those characters in that short amount of space. I mean, they wake up to when they're about to leave. In that time, we know exactly just about everyone is, except for Wabaski and Crow, who unfortunately didn't. It would have been nice to had more time, but
a little more time would have been nice.
If they had done a series, 6-episode series, it would have been really sweat.
It would have been. Are you
The
surprised they haven't done an Alien series?
No, because lately they've been making bad decisions.
They have, yeah. What'd you think of the Predator one that was, back in time some? Prey. I
Oh,
think so.
Prey.
Yeah.
Prey was fantastic.
I liked it too.
I
Yeah.
loved it. You know, it was everything that the Predator needed to be.
Yeah.
You know, the Predator is the best part. The only good part about that is when Olivia Munn's in the lab. You know, and they had Jake Busey. You know, I
Yeah.
love
I
that.
did too. I
So,
did too.
you know,
Yeah.
that they should have just done that. You know, that should have been the whole story. You
Yeah.
know,
Agree.
so and I hate Covenant to the nth degree. You know, I think it's terrible. And honestly, Alien 3 as well. You know, I reject Alien 3 as part of the canon.
I think a lot of
I'm
people
gonna,
do.
I think we should just pretend it didn't happen. It was a bad food late at night. Poor Ripley. So, and
I remember going to the theater and seeing that and being really excited about it because of the second one,
yeah,
and it did not live up to it for me.
yeah. Well, and there was a whole bunch of problems.
Yeah.
I've looked into a lot of that, and I listened to a podcast recently from Every Movie Ever, and they really did a great job of digging in. There's a lot of cursing, but they really did a neat job of digging into it and talking about how the producers were really the driving force. You know, it was David Fincher's first movie. And I don't know.
It's
It
never a
just,
good sign when the producers are the driving force.
yeah. I mean,
Because you
really,
need to have your creatives, your talent. That should be the ones
yeah,
driving the story.
exactly. I mean, Ridley Scott and James Cameron, they really drove the movie.
Yeah.
They had a vision. They had a solid vision. They were allowed to do it. And honestly, I think how many movies are well, we recut it, we reshooted it, we reshot it. Borderlands, apparently they did that. They recut it. They had
I've
Tim
heard
Miller
bad
come
things
in.
about it. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, yeah. But if you don't like it, honestly, just throw it out.
Yeah.
Put it out. Give it a reasonable budget, marketing budget, because
I agree. Yeah.
it's going to be a lot less painful than, don't Justice League was a great example of this. Why go back and have Zack Snyder do his version, have him make a new one, have him
Yeah.
make another movie in with all that
I mean,
energy.
being honest, they should have just let him do it to begin with. I know there was a lot going on back then and stuff, but just
Yeah,
wait and let him his vision do it. Because honestly, that was the better version.
yeah. Well, and honestly, I'm not a fan.
Well, I'm not either. I didn't really
But
like either one
yeah,
of them,
but
but I thought the problem I had with the one that was released was that it was so choppy. I mean, you could tell
yeah,
it was missing story, and
yeah,
that at least got filled in his version. But
yeah,
I'm not really a Zack Snyder fan. I don't really like
yeah.
the way he does movies. That's just
He's done some really great ones that
he
I've
has.
absolutely loved. But overall, lately, yeah, I don't I didn't really like where the DCU is going, and I have high hopes for James Gunn. So,
Yeah.
and
Well, I can tell
and
you that Chuck Dixon is very skeptical about the James Gunn's version.
yeah,
Well, and
it's
I
probably going to
understand
be better written.
his point was why do we keep introducing obscure characters that nobody knows and get away from the meat and potatoes of what
Yeah,
they have. And my argument with him was, well, I mean, how many times do we need to see Spider-Man and Batman's origin story? It was like,
oh yeah,
why can't they just put Batman, drop him into a mystery and let you
yeah,
see the detective side of Batman? That to me would be a really good film, but they don't do that.
yeah,
They just keep rehashing the same story. Well, at this point, we all know the story. Do something
yeah.
else. You can use the
Well,
same characters, just do a different story.
yeah, exactly. And luckily Batman you can just do as, the shot, the pearls dropping, boom.
Yeah,
You bada boom, bada bing.
that's right.
I did not go see Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield because I was like, oh, I have to sit through Uncle Ben dying again. Oh,
Poor
how
Uncle Ben.
wonderful!
Poor
I
Uncle
haven't
Ben.
cried. You
Well, I
know,
will say that Brett loves the Andrew Garfield one. He Tobey Maguire's his favorite, but he loves that Andrew Garfield one. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Tom Holland, I think, actually makes a really good Peter Parker,
I think
but
he's the best.
I'm not a fan of the I like Spider-Man as a poor kid trying to get by. I don't really like he's got the billionaire, financer story.
Yeah.
That's just not for me. But the movie was fine. It wasn't bad. But I like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Taking pictures for the Bugle.
Trying to afford college.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the Peter, but at the same time, it was kind of really funny having Tony Stark try and be a mentor of all people. I mean, who are you going to have a mentor? Oh, Steve Rogers? No, you're going to have.
I thought it was kind of strange too, and now I guess he's Doctor Doom. So.
Oh, I don't know what the hell's up with that.
Well, it'll be a variant or a multiverse thing, or I'm sure he'll be great. He's a great actor.
Yeah. It'll be well acted and all that and all, but I want them to go back to before Infinity War. I want them to have some kind of quick story. They just go back to before Infinity War, and it just starts over. Everything after that, the blip and everything, no, we just get rid of that.
Well, I mean, when you really look at it, and I thought Endgame was pretty good, both parts, but that really has kind of screwed them up because nothing since then has been as good.
And I would argue that it's exactly the time thing, the time travel thing, because they had mentioned right at the beginning of Infinity War that Thanos got the one stone from the world that I can't remember the name of it.
Right.
And they kind of glossed over that. I thought they were going to go back in time, fight there, and then you could have killed off everyone.
Right.
But when the one last person wins, then you can have,
then it resets
everything. Yeah. And it's, I understand why they wanted to try that, but I think it just bollocksed up everything.
It did.
And they haven't been able to find their footing since.
No.
And it's
You so go see Deadpool?
Yes, it's the best.
I loved it. I did. I like actually exclaimed when Blade showed up. I was like, "Oh, Jennifer Garner!" But then I was like, "Wesley's not." But I will say the story was actually kind of crap.
I don't know.
I didn't really care for the story. I love the characters. I love the interaction. The dialogue I thought was really funny and good and stuff. But I didn't really. I would have liked to have seen them on more of a buddy adventure story that takes place in this world, not on some other weird plane. But it goes back. Does anybody care that whatever Fox did and these studios, nobody cares. Just ignore those stories. Just pretend like they didn't happen. And there was some decent parts at times in those. Most of them, whoever came up with the idea that we're going to take all of Spider-Man's villains but not have Spider-Man, that's terrible.
Oh. And you have heroes. You could Silk is apparently, but you have Mayday Parker. You have their child and you could just have her.
You could have. I mean, it would have been better.
Oh my! Well, anything.
That's a whole nother.
But I will argue with Deadpool and Wolverine, the emotional arc that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine goes over, that is the best representation of Wolverine, and I agree with that. I agree with that.
I love that. I did love that. I absolutely. I mean, from the comics, they were kind of doing it like I don't know if you've ever read Old Man Logan, but they kind of did in Old Man Logan. A villain I can't remember which villain it was. It was Mysterio.
Yeah.
Tricks him into thinking he's fighting bad guys, and he actually slaughters the X-Men. And then he goes kind of into exile because he feels so bad. In this one, he just went somewhere and got drunk, and something bad happened to the X-Men, and he's feeling. I'm like, that's just a night out. Why? That's not a. To me, it wasn't a good enough reason for him to be in this funk. But I did love the arc that they went from. I just wish they would have. I mean, why wouldn't you just say that? You know, he was tricked into actually killing the X-Men.
Because Wolverine isn't the most powerful. Jean Grey and as Storm.
Yeah.
Wolverine.
Well, they are, but what if he caught him? You know, what if they're like they know it's Wolverine and he just catches them off guard?
Even then, I don't.
It's tough to get past Jean Grey, I think.
Well, it's tough to get past all of them. I mean, they're too. He's not the powerhouse. You know, he's important to the team, but he's not one of the. It's like having Colossus have beaten up everyone to death. I mean, we love Peter Rasputin. He's not the most powerful, but the idea of him, like early X-Men, the first X-Men movie, he goes out, they get slaughtered, you know, and he was just about to think, I could have a home, I could have, you know, that, you know, and then to have screwed up, you know, I liked it. I thought it was a better take than he killed everyone. Because
and you're making a pretty good argument for it, so I can see that side of it. And admittedly, I tend to get tied to the comics, so when it varies, then I have a little bit of trouble with that. That's a fault of mine. I get that because you know you should be able to make some changes and do the story your way, and that wasn't a huge change, really. It was still he felt like he had let down the team, and then it put him on that kind of bad path. I love the fact that you brought up the, you know, he thought he found a home, because that is totally Wolverine. Yeah. Totally. That argument kind of gets to me a little bit.
And that he let Charles Xavier die.
Yeah.
You know, who really could have, you know, and so I understand where you're coming from. It's a little, it isn't, but then again, maybe it isn't. Maybe that's kind of the beauty of it for me, is that it isn't the biggest, you know, thing, you know, some huge tragic event. It was this little event that, you know.
Well, I mean, does it change your mind at all that they kept saying he was the worst Wolverine ever, like in all the multiverse? I'm like, he just went out for a drink.
He went out for a drink. Yeah.
I don't know that makes him the worst ever.
Yeah, it was but I understand. I mean, let down the whole, you know, if he had been there, things would have been different.
Yeah, that's right. But was there who were you most excited to see come back?
Actually, not to come back, but the best part is Gambit, you know, spoiler alert if you haven't, you know.
Poor Channing Tatum, he has been trying to get that Gambit on screen for years.
And bless them for letting him do the Cajun accent, and not only just doing it, going hard into it.
Yeah.
So it's, oh my God, I've always not liked his body type, because he's too muscular to be Gambit. I remember I read the comics when Gambit.
Me too. Yeah, me too. He's a skinny guy.
Yeah, I don't care now. Wolverine shouldn't be 6 foot something. You know, but who cares?
Did you like that they had the short Wolverine?
That was hilarious. That was the best.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I loved Chris Evans as Human Torch. That was a good one too.
That was amazing. And then, did you watch to the end?
Yeah.
So, okay, people, you got to watch to the end. If you
it's a Marvel movie. What are you doing if you don't watch to the end?
My buddy didn't watch to the end. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Come on.
The speech that Chris Evans gave, apparently he was like, I never get to say this. I'm going to have it memorized, because Ryan Reynolds was going to be cool. Oh, we'll give you cards. And like, yeah, no, I'm going to have it perfectly down. You know,
it was funny. That was funny.
You know,
I heard X-23 is going to be back in one of the things that they're doing.
definitely, and I hope so. I want more Deadpool Wolverine.
Well,
This
I
is the
heard
best
that today
Marvel
too,
movie.
that they're talking about a sequel now.
Yeah. I mean, this is the best Marvel MCU movie, honestly, since really before
Yeah,
Infinity War.
it was like I said, I didn't care for the story, but everything else
Yeah,
about it, I loved it. I mean, the
yeah,
story was fine. It was fine, but I think
yeah,
they could have done a better story. But the dialogue, the interaction between them, some of the arcs that they had, the guest stars. I mean, the only
yeah.
the only real bone would be maybe they could have had Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider. That would have been
Uh,
cool.
oh, he said no.
I
I found
know.
out.
They tried. They
Yeah,
tried. That
yeah.
would have been cool.
I
That
think it was
surprises
what.
me that he said no.
Yeah, I was kind of like, really, but okay, and
And Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds don't get along. So that one
yeah,
surprised me that he was. I didn't think he'd be in it,
huge props to Wesley Snipes for coming in,
and he
and
looked
you know,
good.
yeah, holy, yeah, I hate him. So just because I mean, he was so great, and
It
Jennifer
makes me
Garner.
wonder if they go back and look at and see if they can fit him into the Blade movie. Because I mean, come on,
Yeah.
have him as a cameo. Hell, have him as a vampire.
I don't know. It would be really, yeah. I'm hoping. I want this to be the direction the MCU takes.
I hope
Honestly,
it is.
you
I
know,
hope it is too. So
yeah.
okay, so back to Bad Blood. So Bad Blood,
Wait, what's
Wasper
that?
Encounter. It's um, it's one of the things I love about your writing is that you seem to know when not to go too far. And I'll say I'm saying this poorly, but like if I love Tolkien, big Tolkien fan, but
Yeah,
he kills you with the descriptions of the scenery. Like he
I
kills you
know
with it. And you
exactly.
do you need a little of that because I want you to set the scene. But I really like that with your writing because you give me enough to where I can see it in my head, but I'm not reading 100 pages of how the foliage looked.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Stephen King too. Salem's Lot. He describes the entire. If you're going to have a car chase through, in your book through the main part of the town, yes, you have to describe it ahead of time. But there was no car chase, and no, he did not. You can do, yeah. I mean, world building you can go too far. Yeah, I guess really it's what am I going to leave out? What
yeah.
am I going to put in? And you have to put in just enough. You have to set the scene, but yeah, you don't want to get lost in the weeds.
To me, I don't think you do. Maybe some people like that, but that's just
Yeah,
for me. That's what I like about your writing. You give me just enough, and everything that you put in there propels the story forward. And I like that. There's no wasted space in there with your
yeah.
stuff. I
I,
I think that's really good.
I,
Chuck Dixon, going back to him, uh,
yeah.
he did an adaptation of The Hobbit for comics,
Oh yeah.
and he had
Oh
a he had
wow.
a pretty good story about it. So his editor um, said, "Hey, I want you to do a Hobbit adaptation." All right, and he's like, "Well, how are you getting the rights?" He's like, "We're not getting the rights." He had an unauthorized early version of The Hobbit that he was able to get hold of. That's way different, apparently, way different from the actual Hobbit. And he just went to the Tolkien estate and told him, he's like, you guys, we're going to do this. So you can either get on board and get paid, or we're going to do it anyway. And
Yeah,
so they, because they're not apparently they're not fans of comics, but they agreed to let them actually do an adaptation of The Hobbit because they didn't
yeah.
really have a choice with it, basically. So he got to do The Hobbit, and he was so Chuck was saying, it really it's a lot to put into a comic book. There's just too much. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, once you take all the scenery descriptions, it's like a 30-page book. He got a kick out of that. I was like, it's a comic book. You don't have to describe it. It's right that you can see it.
Yeah. I funny, we tried to do a Liberty comic book, but
That would be a good graphic
you
novel.
well, actually, so the banter was the thing that had to go, and that kind of killed it
That's the
for
part
me.
I love.
Yeah, I mean the bickering, I mean and that was one of the surprises. Pretty much everything. While I'm writing it, I'll have some Super Horror Max. Love Mr. Lovecraft and the kid. Form this familial bond. Uncle Danny and Liberty, Chapter 2, best friends ever. And in this one, Firebug and Mac. Um,
I love
is not
Firebug.
isn't Firebug the best?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she's completely neurotic about the whole thing. She's totally anxious the whole time, and
Yeah.
yet she plugs on through. And to me, that was just, and the relationship that she built with Mac, this kind of grandfather granddaughter sort
Yeah.
of relationship, was so sweet, and then to have because Mac, of course, was inspired by Mark Rolston's character Drake, since he was who I was writing for. But then to have, I had him as the leader, but then to have Gato and Blaze as the lieutenants, and the relationship that just built out of that,
Yeah.
that they became, they were a unit very, very quickly. I didn't even do anything. They just did it all themselves.
I love that
I
you're a
just
fan of your work. That cracks me up, but I love it because I would be that way if I could write. I would totally be that way. I'd be all in on my characters.
well, and in my view, I write what I want to see,
Yeah.
and or what I haven't gotten lately, which is a good Aliens movie, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Just
AVP,
write your
series
own.
2004. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. People. I never liked fan fiction. So for me, it's just like, if you like something, build your own world, build your own thing, and then it can be like a reflection on it.
Right. Right. I
um
agree with that. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
because I mean,
and
honestly, fan fiction never works out, because you don't have the main people behind it, so it doesn't work out. But if
yeah,
you build your own world and it's just a kind of a reflection or homage or whatever, I think that works. And we've seen that before. You've
yeah,
seen copies of other things. Some of them a lot more, a lot closer than what you wrote.
yeah,
Like here's some
yeah.
of their exact copies. They just call it something different.
Well, actually, interestingly, when I was like, I want to create my own monsters, I didn't think they were going to be as cool as the Waspers, quite frankly. But
Wasper, that's a I love that. I love that.
that just popped out one day, and I was
Because
like,
you could go,
okay,
from here, you write more stories going forward, but you could totally go back and delve into
yeah,
to their history.
yeah. And I decided that early on, there's different species. So because my art is decent enough, but this way other artists who are great artists, who are
Right.
better artists than me, can take it and create something even more cool, And but what I did was, the xenomorph comes from wasps, because wasps will implant their eggs in living beings. So I went back to the source material. I went back to that, and I was, just reading about wasps and all that kind of stuff, and it was really just because I only use Adobe Photoshop, or Adobe stock photos, that I
Yeah.
kind of ended up with a very waspish face, but it worked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
you
thought it
know,
worked terrific. Has Mark given you any feedback on it?
Oh, he was. I did to let him know that it was out there, and he said congratulations, which was really cool.
That's nice.
I actually let other people know, about it. To my knowledge, they hadn't really read it. I got to kind of meet Carl Toop, though.
Oh.
Yeah, where the little newt is in the water and the alien that
Mm-hmm.
comes out. That's Carl Toop. You know,
Awesome.
you can follow him on Carl Toop on the Alien 19, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, really nice guy. So, and he still does cons and stuff, and lives out in France, I think.
Oh
So
yeah.
he's lucky
Why
spot
wouldn't
on.
you keep doing cons? Why wouldn't you?
I think it's the best.
Yeah.
I love going to cons.
I've
You know,
always said that if I did a character that was popular enough that, for decades later, people still enjoyed seeing that character, I'd be showing up at cons in costume. They wouldn't even have to invite me. I just show up.
yeah. You were saying about, well, I listened to your Tim Russ. You were talking about the Spaceballs thing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
actually, Dave Sheridan, who played Doofy in Scary Movie, it was at Motor City Nightmares, great
Yeah.
con in Novi, and he was in Doofy costume, and I thought, how cool is that?
Love that.
You know, that's what the hell, you're going to be actually the fact that Doofy turned out to be really smart,
Yeah.
so one of the best twists that I've ever seen. And
So if you had it, because I love all your books, at least the four I've read, I've loved every one of them. If you could only have one of them turned into a movie or a TV show, which would you pick?
Bad Blood.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing. Like, they all would work,
Yeah.
but Bad Blood, I mean, but now, being fair, Bad Blood to me, movie. Super Horror Max, movie. But Liberty's Run, I could see that as a series.
Liberty's Run is interesting because people have said that, oh, would you like
Cowboys
to
and
have a,
Nazis also movie, I think.
oh, well, that actually, I absolutely want to have, more so than anything else. I think that would be the
Yeah.
one to go with. But um, I don't, I can do some more stuff with it, with the characters and stuff. But Bad Blood, to me, because of, you know, their Earth has been taken over by Waspers.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of colonies between them and there. There's the company, the evil company. There is all these different, and there's military. There's all these
Yeah.
problems along the way, and there are Waspers, and they're the best suited. And what came out that was really interesting in the reason that they are being endlessly cloned and was because, well, aliens. You send some Marines in, they're not going to believe, so they're going to bleed acid. Are you kidding me? And they die.
Yeah.
And what was happening as they were getting cloned endlessly, the Marines they have like a muscle memory. They remember how dangerous the Waspers are because they had all been killed more than once. Um, but that kind of that muscle memory has been keeping them alive all this time. And so I thought that was kind of really fascinating.
It is.
That's
That's cool.
one of the reasons that they had to keep doing this,
Yeah.
or were forced to keep doing it because they were so good. So we have all this time, all these different problems. So pound for pound, I would do Bad Blood just because there's so many places to go.
Oh,
Not the least of
it'd
which
be
is
a great movie. Like, I
yeah,
love Starship Troopers. It's a little campy with that,
yeah,
but you could totally do this movie and make it a little more serious, and it would
yeah,
do terrific. But I mean, Starship, that was kind of you had the aliens trying to invade, and they were going to fight them, and doing all that stuff.
the,
But I
the
think this one
fascist
could be even
overtones.
better. Right.
I had been raised. My mom raised me on film, so I knew right away that was Lenny Riefenstahl. So that he was going, and he's like, "Oh, it's a satire," and I'm like, "Really? You sure about that?"
Yeah. Right.
Um, the second one is brilliant. The second one really is, dealing with the whole thing. That
Right.
kind of calls into it,
Yeah, that's
But the
actually a
first
really good
one,
point. The second one doesn't get talked about a lot.
The second one's fantastic.
Yeah,
And
I think so
the
too.
first one, and the first one's kind of cheesy. The one girl's like, "Oh, well, at least I got to kiss you before I died."
Yeah, no,
Are
it's
you
terrible.
kidding me? It's
I talked to
so
Casper about that, about that, and he was kind of the same way. He's like, "Yeah, that was terrible."
yeah, and to do, oh, there's the Wasper's homeworld. Where the hell did they come from? See, I like the idea that they evolved. What did a species have to evolve highly acidic blood in order to stay alive? What
Right,
the
right,
hell
right.
was
Yeah, good point.
what the hell was trying to eat it? you know?
Yeah,
And
what predator does it have?
yeah, well, and the thing is that I always wanted to have analogs throughout the whole thing. So I always went back the talking about acid, hippopotamus create acid. That's the red stuff on their skin. It's an acid to keep away
I didn't know that.
microorganisms.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I wanted, and we have acid in our stomach, so it didn't seem that odd that you could have a
True.
highly acidic blood. you know so the idea of making sure that there were analogs for me, also the best writing advice you will ever get, is from X-Files. At one point someone's telling Fox Mulder, because he's like, why did why did you do this, why are you lying to me, and the guy is saying, um, uh, the best lie is told between two truths. That's why I have to do so
That's
much
great.
research, you know, because if it at least if it's real, and it'll sound right, even if people are like, I have no idea what the Vladi blue that is, but it sounds right.
Right.
Yeah, and I try never to cheat, which I got to cheat more because I hate research. Um, and this
I
one
know. I think the
especially,
research part is to me would be the most difficult part of
uh,
writing a book.
killed me.
Yeah.
But especially, well, in this one, so there are Easter eggs for aliens and a few other things in this whole movie, or in Bad Blood. In
Yeah.
fact, there are so many Easter eggs. I don't think anyone could ever find them all.
Well, give me
Um,
one. Give me one of the Easter eggs.
so Windrixu and Hilgard are complaining about the eighth passenger, and the name of the planet. So in Hungarian, when Alien when they had it, it was called the eighth passenger colon dot dot death.
How
And
did you know that?
IMDb.
I was gonna say
I
that's some nerdy stuff right there.
This is the level of research I went into, that
Yeah.
I combed through all of IMDb. I combed through fandom has the most fantastic information. They've figured out they talk about all the stuff on the armor and
Yeah.
all the characters and stuff. And so when Drixu and Hilgard are arguing about the eighth passenger and the name of the planet, which was aliens. Name of the planet is death. I had to figure out, they're arguing about alien and aliens in that. So, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't have to know that in order to appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but
The,
that's one of those Easter eggs that fans will be freaking out over because they'll
yeah,
get it. There's going to be people reading the book that will get it, and that's the
yeah,
fun part. That's what Easter eggs are for.
yeah. Well, there's a website, an Instagram I found, Alien the Eighth Passenger. Great, great Instagram. He does awesome stuff,
Yeah.
and it. So I wanted to have those in there for people to get, but also just because it makes it more fun, And when
Everybody loves Easter
Drixu,
eggs. Come on.
yeah, exactly. But that made it really hard because I had to figure out, I had to get them, I had to work them in, and I had to work them in seamlessly so
Yeah.
they didn't look like oh, look here, this thing, you know. And my cousin Christy, who such a wonderful person, she read Bad Blood, and I haven't had a chance to talk to her about this, but my mom was relating back that she was like, "Oh, I really love the book, but I've never seen Aliens," and I was like,
That's
"Ah,
amazing. Good for
thank
you.
God." That was like when you told me that your uh, uh, father-in-law,
Yeah,
who is a Mexican, right? If I
that's
believe
right.
so,
That's right.
had read Liberty's Run and was okay with Uncle Danny's,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I was like, thank God, because that ended up with Gatto. I went even harder into it. She ended up having oh man, I spent a whole Saturday trying to research Mexican language and
Oh yeah.
but
I don't remember if I told you that his son, my wife's brother, his name's Danny.
no kidding.
Yeah,
Oh
I don't know why I wouldn't have told you that, but I was like, I don't
no,
think I told him that. But yeah, his name's
so,
Danny.
so wait, so Brett has an Uncle Danny.
Yeah.
So the toughest Mexican ever.
Oh, hey, just do me a favor. Whenever somebody's gonna come at some point and grab one of these and make it into a movie, just get Brett a background role. Put him in there in the background somewhere.
I
Kill
would
him
love
off
to
or
do that.
something.
Yeah, I would love to do that because there's a lot of the worlds. I think Liberty would be better as an animated just because it's too
Well, we
complicated.
had that conversation, and it would be like it'd have to be a high end animation, kind of like Invincible or something, that's
Yeah,
got some money behind
yeah,
it, make it good. But it could totally
exactly.
work as an anime.
Well, and just so you know, Liberty 3 is coming out in November.
Ooh, I'm
A
excited for
time.
that one.
So what do they need after you got food, shelter, and medicine and all that? Vegetables. There's
Gotta get your vitamins.
there scurvy. Scurvy is rampant throughout the fleet
Oh, I
out
like
on the
that.
water. So it's Liberty's Run 3, A Time to Kale.
It's hilarious.
And actually, that was a really interesting how they solve it in the end.
Yeah,
Because, do you clean up an island? Do you know, the
right.
the admiral was dead set against putting dirt on having the farms on top of the aircraft carrier. He was like, no, 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 we are not doing that. And that would have been a logistical nightmare, anyways, to get the bloody dirt up there.
Well, yeah,
So,
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I guess you could do it. You could probably
yeah,
do it, but it wouldn't be easy.
yeah. So, and but with Bad Blood, what I really loved most of all, I actually, because it's inspired by aliens, but I couldn't put all the aliens people in there, especially Ripley and Hicks. You know, when I put them when I thought of it, putting them in the end, it became the Ripley and Hicks show. I
Right.
wanted them to solve their own problem
Yeah.
that they're up against the Wasper King, who is so dangerous, who is so, even though he's shorter than all the other,
Yeah.
you know, is just this powerhouse. He's the security,
Yeah.
and
He's the
they
badass.
and he's not, and he's smart too,
Yeah.
So they have this huge problem, and even when they think they're safe, I wanted that, because I realized that that's so important, that you want it to look like they're just about to win, and it doesn't work, you know
Not so
you know
fast.
not so fast, and one of the most important parts for me was, um so Carter Burke is such an enormous jerk. His sister, apparently, uh, after watching Aliens, actually gave him a punch for being such a bad guy.
That's funny.
So poor Paul Reiser's like, what? I didn't.
It's acting.
Yeah, I was a role, but So the Marines have been basically being endlessly cloned. They're fed drugs, so they don't really know what's going on. They don't
Right.
really have, they'll have an inkling. They know something's wrong. They don't know what it is.
Right.
So Hare, who was the person who basically orchestrated the whole fiasco on the colony 200 plus years ago, he's also being cloned. But the difference is that he hasn't been drugged. He's had 200 years to think of his life choices up to him.
Right.
And
You put so much thought into this stuff. It's awesome. Which
yeah,
that's what you want, like a good book. You want it
yeah,
fleshed out. You want it
yeah,
you want to know that the author knows what's going on, where's it's going. And
yeah,
that's not always
and
true when you read a book. Sometimes you're like, I don't know what they were trying to get across.
yeah, X-Files, Lost. Oh, figure out your mythology, damn it. But
Right.
interestingly enough, it was World War Z. So how how they actually fight the Wasper King at the end was, I was remembering there's a quote in World War Z that every strength is a weakness. So because I couldn't figure out, you know, I wanted to create a really bad monster,
Yeah.
but how? And then I started going, okay, what's his strengths? What's his xenomorph strengths? How can you counteract that? And I don't want to talk about it too much.
I know,
How
but
they
yeah,
did it.
don't give it away because I love that stuff. So
Yeah,
we want
it
everybody else to
was,
kind of come to that on their own. But yeah, it's great.
and then, because I like the fact that they're so plucky, that, and they have this, Mac holds it together the whole time. Mac,
Yeah.
Mac keeps the team together, and Gato and Blaze, they, um, Rico Ross really actually, so I got to meet him at that convention. He was the nicest fellow.
Yeah.
I really thought he was cool. We sat and smoked cigars out on the back porch. He talked about his life. He got to see Prince. It was really cool. And
Awesome.
watching his Instagram though, he's really into encouraging people, sharing stories about people helping other people, and that became such an inspiration for who Blaze is.
Yeah.
That he's the good uncle, the good father, or whatever you want to call it. That, yeah, this is his flock, and he cares deeply about each one of them, and he takes care of them, and he's a complete badass at the same time. So,
No, but I like that because it makes the character deeper.
yeah, and
You know.
I wanted everyone to have their kind of own thing,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's not
so
always
yeah,
easy to do when you've got the group of soldiers basically and trying to differentiate them, because they're very
yeah,
similar in some ways, but
yeah,
you want each personality to stand out, and you don't have a ton of time to do that, so you gotta,
yeah.
so I thought you did a great job with it. I
Thank you.
thought Aliens did a great job with it, because
Yeah,
you knew though each individual pretty quickly.
yeah, and that's writing is a little harder because you can't show them differently.
Right.
You don't have that. You can't see that they
Right.
are different. You have to show that in different ways, and but that's part of it's part of the job.
Well, if it was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say if it
Yeah,
was easy, everybody be doing it. And I was thinking, everybody kind of tries to do it.
everyone, and good. I want everyone to try.
Yeah.
People are like, well, I'm thinking about write a page a day. Hell,
Yeah.
a half page a day. But if you write a page a day, you got 365 pages at the end of the year. Even if some of them, half of them, are junk, that's still not a small amount.
That's a good start. Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah,
I love that attitude. I do that with the podcast. I mean, I joke that best part about a podcast is anybody can do it. The worst part about a podcast is anybody can do it. But
yeah,
I've had many times I've had people approach me for advice on that, and I'm like, just do it. I was like, you'll figure it out. I was like, I'll tell you what equipment you need or whatever you want to know.
Yeah.
But mainly just get on there and see if you actually like doing it. And don't worry about the audience. Because if it's all about just gaining likes and views and all that, then chances are it's not going to work out. You know, do it because you love it. Do it because you enjoy you're getting something out of it, even if it's not an audience, if that makes sense.
And I'll say it again. Your interviews with actors are so interesting because you really can draw out stuff. You know, Mackenzie Gray. I thought that was a fantastic.
Love that interview. He was a fascinating guy.
Yeah, and I think every actor should watch that. You know, go back and watch the Mackenzie Gray episode. It's a while ago. He was in Grave Encounters. He was the psychic guy. Hilarious, and that's really why I started watching it.
He's a good actor. I love
Grave Encounters.
Yeah,
but his insights and how. So that was very cool.
Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback of that. I was with the issues I've been having this year, health issues, I got way behind because I usually listen to every episode that we put out, but I had gotten months behind. So I've been catching that up. I've been listening to our episodes. I do it because I'm trying to find ways to be a little better, to be a little better. Well, I listened to the interview I'd done. It's probably back in May with Josh Bandy, who's an actor, and it hasn't gotten a whole lot of views, but I love that interview. I had the best conversation with him, and he was funny. He's nerdy, and some of the best interviews that I think I've had are some of the least watched. I'm like, you guys need to watch this one.
Well, I'm gonna grab the podcast because I listen to them on my way to work.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
And the thing is that if you're starting something, you can't assume. You've been doing this for how many years have you been doing this?
5.5 now.
5.5 years. You've been doing it 5.5 years. I've been writing for decades now.
Amazing.
But again, good advice just on life. Was from Adventure Time of all things. Jake the dog says,
love it.
You just got to start to do it, and just suck at it, because eventually, if you do it enough, you're going to get good at it.
Yeah, what's the thing? You got to do it 10,000 times or 10,000 hours or whatever to become an expert.
Exactly.
I haven't got there yet. I still got a ways to go.
The more you do something, the more you're going to find, what you're doing. But you got to love it. That's the thing. You got to. I think
that's the main thing. Whatever you're doing, you need to love it in order to do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, if I'm going to live with something for this long, it has to be something that's exciting, that's interesting. And, for Bad Blood, things come out in the writing, but that's after years and years and years of writing.
Right.
I wasn't at that level. My mom talked about something like that. She was like, "Oh, I think this character was this," and I was like, "How the hell, why do you not know that, but later on it became apparent that you could do that, or that would happen, but it took a while, and you can't assume that's going to happen overnight.
No, and chances are it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. And actually, you might not want it to. You might want it to. I'm in a better. If I had gotten famous years ago, But right now, if I get my chance, oh yeah,
I know. I'm excited for it. I'll be coming to conventions to see you.
I would love to. That would be the best.
I interviewed a interior designer. We haven't posted the interview yet, but somebody talked her into putting her business online. Mm-hmm. Right, so she put one thing up on TikTok, and overnight it got 600,000 views. Wow. And I was like, that never happens. It's like overnight she had a new business. Like she completely stopped doing in-person stuff, and now it's all online. And that was
really
overnight.
nice.
And I'm like, you're the first person I've ever talked to that something actually happened overnight.
Yeah, a lot of times it's 10 years to be a success, to be an overnight success. Well, some of us it's 20, 30 years. But
right. Well, hey, some of us don't even get started till we're about 50.
Well, and that's the thing, there are people who Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was what, 60, 70?
That's right. Well, and everything leads you there, though. I've been a business owner. I've tried different careers and failed, and some of them I did okay at, that type of thing. But everything leads you to whatever it is you're supposed to do. I believe with that, and I didn't realize. I didn't actually. I thought I would enjoy podcasting, but mostly just to spend time with Brett. I didn't realize I'd fall in love with it. But when I compare what I'm doing here to like running a call center, which is what I did for 20 years, it's not even close. I'm like, why did I do that for 20 years? I didn't even like it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm lucky. I have a really nice day job now, but I used to work for Borders, and that was just, you didn't get paid enough. It was soul crushing,
as most retail stores are.
Yeah, retail sucks. But it's just, but if I hadn't gone to that convention, if I hadn't met Mark Rolston, and I would have just been happy to have met Mark Rolston and Rico Ross and Daniel Cash, great guys. That was awesome in and of itself,
Yeah, but look what it led to.
You never know where inspiration, you never know where that moment's going to come where things are going to change, and but you have to work.
Yeah, you got to put the effort in.
You got to put the effort in.
It's not, and I think that's where a lot of people fail. Especially you see all these, they're trying to be influencers, that type of thing, but they don't really put the work in. You can't just show up. It's not just going to happen around you. You got to actually make it happen.
Yeah, and again, I argue that you oftentimes you don't want it to because you're not ready for that.
Oh, I completely agree with that.
You don't know what you would do at the next level.
Yeah, there's something to be said that you can outpace what you're actually capable of doing at that moment. And if you do that, a lot of times you end up failing and never get back to it because you just it was too quick. I think there's something to be said about taking those steps and kind of growing with the business.
Yeah, and just, but you got to put it. Right now, I'm learning, audiobooks on 11 Labs, and but it's been weeks that I've worked very hard to become maybe a novice.
Right. Yeah, but you're putting the work in.
You're
putting that into your tool belt.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really great is if you can get stuff to build. Like I have, like this shirt, Ash Goes to Hell is on Redbubble. I have a bunch of stuff on Redbubble. It hasn't taken off. That's okay. I'm going to, now we got the audiobook thing.
Hasn't taken off yet.
It hasn't taken off yet. So I know there's an audience for it.
Oh yeah, there is. I told you I love that shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was just because I wanted Ash to go back to hell and save everyone. So hell isn't real in our world, but it is in theirs.
That's right.
So
that's right.
There's a great book called Heaven and Hell by Bart Ehrman. If you ever want to read into that, oh my God, fantastic!
All right, yeah, all right.
It talks about it's written. It's a New Testament scholar, but he writes for us, specifically.
Oh yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds good.
I got all these things that I get into.
Well, Walt, I appreciate you taking the time as I always do. Bad Blood, a Wasper Encounter. It's awesome. Take it from me. I love to read. I'm a book reader, have been my whole life. You're absolutely at the top of my list author-wise. I love your stuff. People need to be reading it.
It's so much fun, because it's a cool adventure, and it really keeps you going. And
Yeah.
I tried to make, and I didn't. It's not easy. They're really working hard, but they're working as a team, and they get to shoot a lot of monsters. You know.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. If you
Well,
go to,
but Walt, before we wrap up, go through all your social media stuff, your website, everything with that, because it's not like Bad Blood's the only thing you've got on there. You've got a ton of just terrific stuff. And I'll say too, I always love the newsletters.
I kind of,
It's tough. I know that's
unfortunately,
a hard one to keep going
yeah,
with that, but you always included a little something in there to read or something. And I love that.
yeah,
You're just a good writer. That's why, I always push people toward your
yeah,
website because that, you just
yeah.
got good stuff on there.
Well, and the nice thing is, if this audiobook does exactly what I think, everything's going to be available on audio,
Yeah.
just
That's
about
awesome.
everything. And because everyone's in the car, but
Yeah.
the place to really find, because I have and it's a great day job, don't get me wrong, but because I have a day job, and Uncle underscore Walter underscore one, is the Instagram that I'm pretty much on most of the time. That's the one I've been regularly updating.
You do a great
But
job with Instagram because Instagram,
thank you.
it's the nicest one, but it's also probably the most active right now. And you do a
Yeah.
great job but same thing. If you stop posting, you're going to lose all your followers.
Right now, I'm just trying to even get them.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's a slow process. Me too on Instagram. It's a slow
yeah,
process.
but also waltergesselman.com, you can see my website, and I also have Catmandu for you.
I like
So
that
if
one.
you, yeah, and but right now, I mostly I'm on Uncle Walter because Uncle Walter is pretty busy. So
Uncle Walter's a busy guy.
yeah,
We're going to get you to the point that you can do like I did, retire from that day job, do this full time.
yeah, I I just want to, yeah, I just want to get more work done.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I love my job. I love the people there,
Yeah.
but sometimes I'm like, I really want to get stuff done.
Well, yeah, because you've got
So
these thoughts in your head, you want to get them down. I get it.
yeah, but that's okay because I have figured out ways to work around that.
Yeah.
You know, so I can completely make sure I'm taking, because we're helping people there. We help pharmacists. This is fantastic. But I also, and I like helping people. But
Yeah.
so it's the thing is that you can't get rid of all your challenges. We don't have a giant pile of money most of the time. So you have to figure out how to do your art around the things that you have to do as well,
Agree.
and
Yeah.
that's,
It's not, yeah, you've got responsibilities. You got to work around that.
yeah, and you can't just ditch them. So it's a delicate balance,
We'd
and
all
you
like to, but we cannot. Well,
and
Walter, come back. You know that open invitation anytime
yeah,
when the next
thank
one's
you.
ready, or maybe when somebody picks up one of the previous ones, whatever. Or we can just come and talk nerdy stuff. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I would really love to get back in. Thank you so much. I love doing these interviews most of all, and these are
Well, if you
fantastic.
sucked, I wouldn't have you back, but you don't.
Fair enough. So
There's a reason you've been on here 4 times, and the only person I've had on here 4 times. All right, Walt, hang on 1 second. I love Walt. He's a incredibly talented writer, but even better person. I love Walt. I just am so happy that our paths crossed, and that's why I keep bringing him back on. He's talented, and just a good guy. And we need more good guys. He's just a good guy. Check out Bad Blood, a Wasper Encounter. He's written a ton of books. The ones I have read are Cowboys versus Nazis, Super Horror Max, and Liberty's Run. I loved all 4 of those books, and I think you will too. So if you're looking for something to read, go check out Walter's books. If you're more of the audiobook person, give it a little time. He's working on that. Got my new mug that Emily made for me. It's pretty good. I was worried it wouldn't show up on camera, but it looks pretty good on there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again with us this week. Definitely don't take you for granted. Appreciate you so much. Walt and I get on here and we can just talk forever. So I know it's a little bit longer episode, but I hope you really got some good things out of it. Our website's meistercon.com. We've got about 825 episodes, audio and video versions on there. So please check us out there. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Let me try this again, because I think I may have messed that up. Our website is meistercon.com. Please check us out there. You got 825 audio and video versions of our episodes on there. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. I may have said that right, but if I didn't, then now you've got it. So MeisterCon Pod for YouTube, meistercon.com for the website. Please check us out in both places. If you go to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Really helps us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.